Hello and welcome back to yet another episode of the Quirky Inquiry. Today's episodes are going to be dedicated to getting some of my thoughts out there with regards to the phrase, knowledge is power. Now we've all heard of this rag with parents telling you that, hey, you need knowledge, you need a good education to get into a good university, which a good university and a good education leads to a great career. And some phrase of knowledge is power is defined as, if you have more knowledge, if you know more about the universe, then you have greater power to manipulate this universe. So the general point here is that a lot of people throw around this phrase knowledge is power without actually knowing where it came from, without actually knowing the underlying implications of this phrase, because it's quite significant. And we're gonna rely upon all of the stuff of this video upon the works of Michel Foucault. First of all, if you want to understand the phrase knowledge is power, you have to define specific terms that are interlinked with the concept itself. Knowledge from this interpretation doesn't actually mean knowing a bunch of facts. Facts here don't necessarily mean knowledge in a Foucauldian sense. Knowledge is only considered as knowledge if it has relevance to a dominant discourse in a given social structure. Whoa, Robin, slow down with all your jargon. What do you mean? To put it in simpler language, you have to speak the concepts that's relevant into group. You have to speak in what the group speaks like in order to gain popularity within that group, which is a pretty intuitive concept. For example, if you want to be a part of the cool kids in high school, you have to adhere to certain codes and conventions of how the cool kids should act in high school. There's a certain dominant discourse in that social structure, namely cool shoes, namely parties, namely alcohol and drugs, I don't know. And also similarly, if you want to belong to a different social structure, for example, the nerds, then you have to speak the language that the nerds are speaking. Are they dressed up in a certain way? Do they talk about a certain topic? Do they seem to be extremely passionate about a certain thing? These are all what Foucault coined as dominant discourses, and these are the discourses that we have to adhere to. And the process of gaining control and gaining mastery over these dominant discourses is what knowledge entails. Now things start to make a little bit more sense. Knowledge is power, not in a sense that the more facts about quantum mechanics that you know, the more quarks that you can name, the more relevant you are to society. Certainly, certain corners of society, maybe in the academia circles, you could appear to be a more powerful person in that social structure. If you become an academic or a physicist, those relevant concepts in physics are going to be extremely relevant to your chosen field of study. Likewise, if you're a wine taster, the dominant discourse within that social structure is going to be the type of wine. So it wouldn't really make much sense for you to go memorizing Shakespearean quotes when you attend a wine party just to seem more sophisticated. In a nutshell, there are hidden rules, and there are hidden dominant discourses, and there are hidden stuff within every social structure that one needs to adhere to in order to be a part of that group. And the ones that don't possess that dominant structure or narrative are by necessity excluded from the group, because you're not a part of the group, you don't speak her language, you're not a part of her tribe, then we have to kick you out. And power in a Foucauldian sense is the unequal distribution of such dominant discourses. So there's a central theme of the central versus the marginal in all of postmodern thinking. In high school, despite the fact there are dominant discourses residing both within the cool kids and the nerds, the cool kids are going to take on a higher social status than the nerds because their dominant structure is more elevated. And of course, certain disciplines like physics are in fact going to trump over humanities because they possess a higher power status in society. And if you want to rise to that power structure, you have to learn the discourse, you have to learn the math, you have to learn the science, and to learn about the different scientific theories that you need to learn about. So in a nutshell, the more you know doesn't exactly mean that the more power that you're going to have in society. So knowledge is power here really essentially means you have to gain the knowledge of the dominant discourse within a social group to understand the dynamics of the group, and to fit into that social group is to gain control and master their dominant discourse. Otherwise, you will be excluded from the group. So just in case nothing made any sense for you in this episode, here's this amusing little clip by Professor Rick Roderick that's going to explain everything very succinctly and beautifully.
Now, when I have my students argue with me about this thesis that where you find knowledge or information, there you also find power, if they keep arguing with me, I threaten to give them a C, and then they agree with me.
So yeah, that is in a nutshell what I've been learning for the past couple of days, and that's to the extent of what I know about Foucault. And if you can correct me and if you can expand my understanding, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your perspective. By the way, if you're wondering, this is just a documentation of my current understanding of Foucault. I mean, there are shades of gray that I couldn't yet perceive, but this is what I know about Foucault so far, and I'm going to read more about it. I'm going to get back to you guys, expand it, and then learn more about it later on. Maybe we can have some more stimulating discussions. Okay, Robin here from the Quirky Inquiry, and I shall be signing off just about now.